Have you ever gotten revenge on a rude customer? 1. This is not my story, but my mother's. My mother owned a bridal shop for 25 years. She had seen all kinds of customers, some pleasant, some rude, or some just looking for ways to knock the prices down. There was a pleasant bride who had picked her dress, and was at the store for the dress fitting and alteration. My mom liked to do the measurements herself, whenever possible, to make sure the dresses were as perfect as possible. The young bride brought her mother to the fitting. She was very rude and condescending to my mother the entire time. She did not realize that my mom owned the shop. She was looking for excuses to get additional discounts on the dress by criticizing the dress and the workmanship. The alteration was done, and then the bride came back another day to try on the dress again with her mother. The bride loved it, but her mother continued to criticize the work, and wanted more discounts. She told my mother that she had to do what she wanted because the customer is always right. My mom told the bride's mother, "Leave the dress because I'm going to give you a full refund. You will not be happy with anything that I do. You need to leave my store and never come back." The bride started to cry, then told her mother to shut her mouth and to leave, because she loved the dress and thought it was perfect. The woman left, angry and humiliated, and her daughter apologized to my mother. 2. I was working my last shift ever as an employee of Carl's Jr., a fast food restaurant that is part of the Hardee's umbrella. After a weekend off, I was to start my new job Monday as a security guard at a gold mine. I was down to the last 2 minutes of my shift when a young lady came in and asked if we were taking applications. I told her I had it on good authority that a spot would be opening up fairly soon, and handed her an application. Once I was done dealing with her, I turned to a person standing at the register with his coffee cup in hand. His face was red with anger. "I've been standing here for 5 minutes waiting for a goddamn refill while you've been flirting with the bitch." First, I had not been flirting. Second, it only took me a minute to deal with her, and he wasn't there when I started. He'd been there 30 seconds, tops. "Hurry up and fill my cup, or I'll be talking to your manager, and you'll be fired." I looked at my watch. I had about 10 seconds left. I walked over to the register slowly, and clocked out. "That's okay. I quit. Go FK yourself." I laughed all the way home. 3. Once I was working on a checkout on Christmas Eve, and I was 5 minutes from the end of my shift when a customer approached my till with a piled-up trolley. I politely told her I was about to close. She rudely replied, "I don't care. You can't have anything better to do after work, so do your job and serve me." She then parked the trolley next to the till, said, "Wait here. I need some more things," and walked away. There was no way that I was going to wait on her. Doing so, then ringing up her giant trolley would take me an hour over my finishing time. At the time, I was living at home and my dad would be waiting to collect me, and I was not going to force him to wait because this bitch couldn't be a human being and go to another till. I proceeded to flight my till, bank the cash and lock it, and walk away. After I came back from the locker room, carrying my bag and dressed in my own clothes, the bitch was still at my till unloading her shopping. Did she think I'd just popped to the loo and would be back? I didn't care, and left by the other door. I still wonder how long she waited until she realized that I wasn't coming back. 4. Back in the 1980s, I worked in a section of the immigration department of the UK Home Office where members of the public who were foreign nationals could come and apply in person for variations to their visas. At the time, I was on duty as a supervisor and I spotted one of my staff, a young black man whose judgment and common sense I trusted implicitly, engaged in a conversation with a South African national. The South African had arrived in the UK some 5 months earlier, ostensibly on holiday, but now wanted to be granted permanent residence so that he could live and work here. My colleague was explaining to him, very politely and with far more patience than I would have been able to muster, that he did not qualify for permanent residence in the UK, and that he would be expected to leave the country no later than when his leave to enter expired a couple of weeks hence. The South African was not having any of it, and demanded to speak to a real Englishman. I stepped forward and reiterated what my colleague had told him. I was then treated to a diatribe of foul language and racist invective, and a demand that his application be taken seriously. So I took him at his word, accepted his request as a formal application, and promptly formally refused it, advising that he would be liable to be deported if he did not leave the UK by the date stamped in his passport. He eventually gave up arguing and turned away to leave, muttering in what I assume was Afrikaans. As he began to walk away, my black colleague, who was private school educated and spoke English with a cut glass accent, called after him, "Are you happy, sir, now that you've had it in black and white?" 5. Not directly. I was a third shift supermarket cashier, working alone with a stock boy. I had to go to the bathroom. I was only gone for a few minutes when someone started screaming on the microphone. When I got there, she was irate, screaming she'd been waiting a half hour, swore she was going to call the manager the next day and she was dumb enough to do that. They simply rolled back the security camera footage and noted I was gone 8 minutes, and she waited for 3. They rolled the tape back further and saw her stuff steaks into her coat and fill her pockets. They apologized profusely and told her to come in for a gift certificate. When she walked in, they offered her a seat and told her the district vice president wanted to apologize himself. While she was waiting, they called the police, and she was ultimately charged with theft. 6. I was working at an auto dealer selling parts. My boss sold a guy a piece of chrome for his truck based on what he described. I had overheard him ordering the part. It was the wrong part, and he came in to return it and obtain the correct chrome. He had been unpleasant the first time, and this time he felt he was justified in going complete asshole. After listening to him until he ran down, I was quite apologetic, rang up the refund, and then pulled his desired part out of stock. It was a heavier piece and accordingly more expensive, especially when you consider the extra 30% I added on for the tirade. My boss, viewing the sales figures at the end of the day, saw the price and asked why it was marked up so high. I told her and she remembered him quite clearly. I told her the markup was an asshole tax. 7. Yes, but I was not an employee. I was dating a woman who worked at a Sam's Club and I had by coincidence a Sam's Club. She got them for free. Employee t-shirt on one day when I was shopping there. This was random, not deliberate. So this incredibly rude woman approaches me and demands that I do something for her. Immediately her attitude and arrogance was extreme. That is when I realized I was wearing the Sam's Club t-shirt and then realized why I was subject to this abuse. So I simply said, look lady, I am on my lunch break. Go find someone who actually gives a f.k about you, and walked away. She spent the rest of the afternoon trying to get me fired from a job I did not even have. My girlfriend told me later this lady spent hours on this futile task. Revenge served.